You might be making life harder than it needs to be. Are Sunday mornings hectic for you? You can't seem to get people fed, dressed, and out the door for a church gathering without someone losing their cool? In our house, that someone is usually me. I can tend to be impatient, unkind, and harsh. My lack of self-control can lead to the rest of my family walking around on eggshells because they're scared of setting me off. Of course, I want to blame them for it. But if I can't keep my emotions in check, if I can't speak with love, if I'm not charitable toward the people that I love, that's not on them. That's on me. If you can relate, I want you to know that I get it. I have been there. I have yelled at my kids when they can't find their shoes. My eyes have shot daggers at my husband when he's standing in the midst of the chaos and seems to be oblivious to how he could be helping. I have huffed and pouted as we try to get everyone loaded into the vehicle. I can relate to feeling like a gigantic jerk as you're driving and the feeling of disconnect when you walk in to greet your church family with a smile on your face and "Hi, how are you?" when you were just being an absolute pill to your husband and kids on the way there. I can relate. But that doesn't make it okay. I'm not here to tell you that since everyone's fighting a similar battle, it's fine. It's not fine. As Christians, it's our joy to gather with other believers, to worship Jesus, and to celebrate what he's done for broken, messed up people. People like us, who sometimes show up to a church gathering with a rain cloud above our heads. We're a mess. And we need to be willing to admit that we're the problem. We've got issues, and we need rescuing. Isn't it good news that Jesus came to rescue messed up people like us? That he came to turn angry moms into joyful ones? That he can transform harsh you into gentle you? I know it's good news for me. This whole issue of Sunday mornings being a battleground is pretty predictable, though, isn't it? I mean, we have an enemy who hates God and hates us if we belong to God. Of course he would want Sunday mornings to be awful. Of course he wants you to be in combat mode with your own family and make the whole process of going to gather with God's people a nightmare. He'd want to make you so angry at yourself and others that you don't even want to go and maybe convince you to just stay home. He'd also want to convince you that you're the only one that struggles with this. Everyone else has their act together. Everyone else wakes up singing Amazing Grace, and their children glide to the table for breakfast with halos hovering over their heads, but not you, not your kids. If you're like me, you might have thought Sundays were supposed to be this idyllic time when your family all gets along and puts aside their pettiness to be sweet and obedient and basically make you look good. Sorry to break it to you, but Sundays aren't about making you look good. It took me time to realize that Sundays are just hard. They're not exempt from sin. It took me time to realize I needed to declutter my heart and my thoughts of some junk that had no business being there. Sinful attitudes, unrealistic expectations. I also realized I needed to develop some habits that would make Sunday mornings a more peaceful, more God-glorifying time in our home. I find it helpful to begin with the end in mind and work backwards. I like to reverse engineer to figure out where I need to start with something. So if my goal was to gather with the church every week to worship Jesus and get there with a genuine smile on my face and joy in my heart, I needed to figure out, how could I actually get that to happen? The pressures of getting a family out the door on Sundays will always be there. How we deal with those pressures and challenges is up to us. We can do it joyfully or bitterly. When our big kids were little, my husband Clay was a pastoral apprentice, and on Sunday mornings he would leave the house before the rest of us to load up equipment and get everything set up, which meant I was getting 4 kids out the door by myself. On weeks that Clay was preaching, he would preach through his sermon and get everything ready the night before, and if I'm honest, I sort of resented how his Sunday work was creeping into Saturday. Remember, I can be a bit of a pill. He calmly said to me one day, "Well, yeah, Sunday mornings begin Saturday night." That little statement changed everything for me. When we started thinking about Sunday morning beginning Saturday night, Sundays became so much more manageable and peaceful. We made sure our kids got to bed at a good time on Saturday, so they'd be less prone to mood swings the next day. I started packing the backpack with snacks and activities on Saturday night. I'd make sure clothes were clean and ready to go. Shoes were ready at the door Breakfast was planned and ready to be made, and I took time to make sure that my heart was at peace. All of those preparations would only be truly helpful if they were done with a heart that was focused on delight and not duty. It's a joy to gather with God's people, to be taught from the Bible, to sing in worship to Jesus for all he's done for us. Reflecting on that grace as I prepare for the coming morning makes it a joy and not a burden. And Sunday mornings are so much less hectic and stressful now that I take active steps on Saturday night to prepare not only the practical things we need for Sunday morning, but also to prepare my heart. I dare you to give it a try and let me know how it goes. I'm not promising that you'll never have a stormy, sinful attitude when Sunday comes, but in my own experience, it has grown in me a greater love for Jesus, for his church, and a greater joy that I get to gather every week. Preparing my heart and my home for Sunday has served to further open my eyes to the grace that gathering with God's people is, and I want that for you. When you're not there, people miss out on the grace Jesus has for them in you, and you're missing out on his grace to you through others. We need each other. Sundays are busy days, but they're the best days. And what a blessing that the best day of the week just got a little bit longer by starting it the night before. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, would you please make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, so that we can spend more time together. Thanks, and I will see you next time. Bye.